came from which country?
Sweden. Estonia. Local.
Riksbyggen. Riksbyggen. Okay, folks. Can we have the sound on? Yeah? Push the button down this thing. Push the button down. How's that? Yay. Okay, welcome back. If you're like me, it's a bit of a shock being out there and coming back in here. You have to readjust to the demi-monde of this great venue. I hope you had a chance to connect with your colleagues. Hope you had a chance to visit Uncle Joe and the crew, all the statues who are out at the back. If you didn't, go and have a look. Maybe some of you dipped into the film, which I heard was really good, really nice. So again, these links will be available, I think, Michaelis, on the website, as will all of the content from our presentations today. So let's carry on with our discussions. Let's dip into maybe the key question, certainly one of the key questions for today, this whole question of affordability. And I guess if you're an urbanist, so I'm an urbanist, one of the big worries is that our cities become unaffordable. They become the playgrounds of rich people. If you're in London and Berlin and places, we're very worried about the dramatically rising costs of living in our cities. So we want our cities to be places which are open to all, but that's increasingly a challenge. And tech doesn't always help. So our conversation today, this afternoon, is going to be partly about affordability as a disruptor, but also these new tools as an opportunity for doing things better. So building, designing, we've talked a bit about 3D housing, but there are other things, BIM we'll talk about this afternoon too. So the range of things which are in this conversation are quite wide. Let me introduce our panelists, and again, we've got a fantastic range of speakers, all experts in their field. First of all, Johannes Lutter from Urban Innovation in Vienna, who's going to be sharing some thoughts on the sharing economy, the fair economy or not, question mark. We also have Jüri Rass from the Estonian Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, who will be picking up on a theme we've already heard a little bit about already, this whole thing about e-construction, how we use these tools to be more efficient, to address some of the kind of questions we have around building to meet our needs in cities. We also have Evgeny Maksimov, also from Tallinn, involved in the property development side, who'll be talking about BIM, so some of the building information modeling software and how that can help us, again, to get better and do things more efficiently, more effectively. Also from Austria, delighted to have Dr. Bernd Rießland with us, who's again going to be on this theme of costs of construction, efficiency, affordability, but looking at it from the perspective of investment and return on investment. And last but not least, and first of our speakers, because she has to rush off, Cattis Carlén, housing policy expert from Riksbyggen in Sweden, who's going to open up with this wider question of digitalization in the housing sector, which I think will set the scene very nicely for our conversation. And maybe before you come up, Cattis, we'll maybe ask our audience a question for them, just to make sure you're, maybe you've had a glass of wine, you're just beginning to settle into your chair. So let's ask you a question to make sure you're all with us. Can we pop up the question, please, for this session, the first one? Remember to get your smartphones out, and we're asking you to vote. Let us know what you think. So here's a question coming up now. That's the last one. Dun, 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 dun. So here we go. So this is about, okay. Most interesting potential tool that can be used to keep housing production affordable. Whoops. Okay, so Evgeny, that gives you a nice idea of where these are in 3D printing, yeah? Okay. Yeah, you're not pushing a button there, are you? You're okay, thank you very much. So let's hop over to Cattis' presentation. There's also an Airbnb question, but we'll pop that up later on. We'll maybe go back to that one. So Cattis, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours, and just as we bring your slides up. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks. So hello everyone. From the start. So everyone close your eyes now.
It's retrofitting.
So my name is Cattis and I work for Riksbyggen, which is a private company in Sweden, and we develop housing, cooperative housing, and we as well have a large proportion of property management in Sweden. Just a second. Yeah. So this is what I will try to speak about today. Just to show you the Swedish strategy for digitalization. Skills, security, innovation, direction, and infrastructure. And overall, this is in short as well the strategy for Riksbyggen. And I'm going to tell you a bit about how we try to put this into practice. We have identified some factors affecting Riksbyggen. And all of these factors are important, but most of all, affordability and as well digitalization connected to this comment. And if you're wondering who this guy is, this is the head of the ET department, and his name is Amir, and he told me if I needed his help, he wanted to be in the presentation. So this is how a way to show you how we are creating a central platform for digitalization in our building projects. And our aim is to combine tools and methods which enable us especially to add value, improve livability, and as well promote affordable solutions. We as well at Riksbyggen has developed a toolkit to secure and enhance sustainability. And as you can see, it's a range of, well, different parameters that we work with. And this assures a better long-term performance in property management and maintenance, and as well conditions for social sustainability. My next slide is a film about building information modeling, and that is a way of showing how we are adding value and as well systems for communications in early stages to connect the different stakeholders. Movie? Let's see. Or did it stop? No? Okay, something happened. Just to improvise, I will not speak more about this model here, but this actually shows us when we are going to take decisions regarding our building projects, what to, well, preserve and what to develop. And now I can speak a bit about myself. Oh. So go back one slide. So let's see.
When we build, it's important that the finished building meets the same high standard as the initial vision. Using a digital model, a BIM model allows us to ensure that the quality is maintained through every part of the project. The BIM model, or Building Information Model, is used all the way through to the finished result. The architect's ideas are turned into actual building products represented by BIM objects in our digital model. The model gives us continuous access to accurate and updated information about the products and their properties. The BIM model allows us to ensure that the project stays on budget, that sustainability requirements are met, and that the project stays on time. We can use the model to communicate with everyone who's involved in the project. Information can be changed or added as the project develops, and things like the customer's choice of interior design can be added in the digital model. The BIM model is updated, and the information is made available to all stakeholders. The selected products are ordered in the correct quantities and arrive in the right place at the right time. Once the building is completed, the BIM model is used to control the quality of the project. The model can be used in maintenance of the building, to calculate and keep track of when renovations are needed, or to make sure that recycling is properly carried out. In Lutter, we use the digital model through the entire building process. For us, BIM is the natural evolution that gives us everything we need to develop and improve our business. Riksbyggen.
Thanks. Within our property management department, we make a lot of effort to develop, well, new technical and as well digital solutions to improve our business models. And with the help of drones, we can both inspect and photograph the property with around 50 drones at the moment. And I'll just show you here a short movie. And with the help of drone, we made it 3D animation. And now here we can project for, the local housing cooperative, the abilities and as well the possibilities with solar panels. So this is very good both for our members and the customers, but as well for us because we can work in another speed range nowadays. I'll just tell you a little bit about what as well Anders Lago from HSB was speaking about, this RPA processing, robotic process automation. And this is actually a way of speeding up as well the administrative processes in an organization. And with the help of robotic tools, we create these automated processes, both internal and external. And it's especially a way of overcoming the administrative challenges ahead of us. And not to mention, we also create more benefits for members, our customers, and as well our staff. And now I'm going to show just a short part of a movie. Just a second. Can you go back? Just a second. I'll just explain before. So we have a little robot called Pepper. I don't know if you know Pepper, but it's IBM's autonomous talking humanoid robot. And with the help of Pepper, we are just showing now how we are adding value in our organization, in our models. And Pepper originally speaks French, Japanese, and English. But we gave Pepper a task, and that was to learn Swedish for 1 hour, studying the website of Riksbyggen. And after 1 hour, Pepper could answer a lot of extensive questions regarding Riksbyggen. And Pepper is my favorite robot at the moment, so we'll just show you the movie a bit because it's in Swedish.
Vad vet du mer om Riksbyggen?
What do you know more about Riksbyggen? He speaks of the localizations around in Sweden. Yeah, that's enough. You get the point, right? It's wonderful. So I have 2 last slides here, and I will just project here for you some examples of added value and how we can increase affordability. And because we will share the slides, you can read them all through afterwards. But this is a way for us to develop more affordable options for our tenants and boards in our local housing cooperatives, and as well to continue our everyday work building suitable homes and affordable housing around Sweden. Thank you.
Thank you, Cattis. Are we on? Yeah, we're on. Thanks, Cattis, that's great. And I guess maybe next year's panel we'll have a bunch of robots on the stage, so who knows where all this ends up, but yeah, that was super. And for me, as a person who's not involved in the technical side, it's good to see how these new tools are being used. So drones, the design stuff, even the robots there, to actually visualize and understand what the implementation options are for these kind of tools. So thanks for that. And we know that you'll have to leave, so no one will think you're being rude if you rush off in the middle of the conversation. So thanks for joining us. Okay, let's keep rolling on. Let's ask Johannes to just change our perspective a little bit. This is looking at affordability from a different dimension. This is looking at affordability in the sense of the impact of platforms and the platform economy. I guess one of the big controversies, and maybe one of the most visible things, Uber and Airbnb are one of the most visible kind of challenges around our governance, and particularly cities like Barcelona, Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam, trying to get to grips with Airbnb and try and mitigate its negative sides, but at the same time use it as a potential tool for attracting visitors. So, Johannes, we really look forward to hearing what you have to say, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, I'm a bit the outlier today because others are speaking about technologies that make housing more affordable, digitalization that helps making housing more affordable. I'm speaking about a development that has been a disruptor with very mixed effects, and some of them even putting pressure on the affordability of housing. For sure, the sharing economy can be spoken of as a disruptive technology. Change has been rapid, it has been extensive, and it has been far-reaching in terms of impact. And home sharing is one of those segments of the sharing economy where those effects are most strong. These are data from Airbnb in London. If I speak of Airbnb, it's just past pro toto, of course, but it's the biggest sharing platform. If you trust in the numbers of Airbnb, you can see these are data until 2017. So we have been expecting the curve to flatten since 2 years. Obviously, that is not the case up to now. What is typical for home sharing, it's peer-to-peer, so you rent directly to the customer. It's for touristic purposes, or at least for the visitor economy. So also congresses like ours, I don't know whether some of you are staying in Airbnb while they're here in Tallinn, are typical consumers here. But it's usually short-term, and of course it's provided with the help of digital platforms. So why this enormous success of Airbnb, of home sharing? Where does this growth come from? The simple answer is there is supply, there is demand, and there is digitalization that brings supply and demand together. So we have supply because homeowners but also not only property owners, but also property renters found out that you can make more profit by short-term renting to tourists than long-term rental contracts. There was a time when home sharing was more or less a community activity. Today it's already a commercial branch, and I can show you a few other numbers like that. On the other hand, there is demand. You have a rising visitors economy. You have a rising city tourism branch where you have the trend that visitors are looking for this specific, authentic feeling of living like a local in cities. And of course, they're always looking for cheap rates. And Airbnb, in average, is about 30% cheaper than hotels. So you can easily see where there's the success. And of course, for on tourism aspects, it's also that Airbnb is widening the market. So Airbnb is now also addressing family with children who would have troubles paying for several hotel rooms, but can easily afford one apartment. Now, looks good. Is it good or is it evil? There have even been surveys among US cities recently. There have been surveys also in Europe. There are a lot of benefits of Airbnb. It raises entrepreneurial activity in the cities. So in particular in times of economic crisis, 2007, 8, 9, these were the first years of home sharing. That was a form of earning an extra money in times of high unemployment and low wages. For cities, this means home sharing creates additional taxable revenue in case you, or the cities or the state, get a grip on the hosts and make them pay the rents, of course. On the other hand, to answer give the full answer to the question, of course, Airbnb raises a lot of questions. It's not about not only the question of tax evasion that's in the room. It's also that, of course, home sharing actors usually try to bypass the strict trade law that hotels have to deal with. It also raises question of safety and consumer protections. All those questions that hotels have to face are bypassed by home sharing. And then there is, of course, the question, what does home sharing do with the housing market? There has been a recent study by the National League of Cities in the US, where we have the longest tradition of home sharing, more than 10 years now. Airbnb is on the market in the US. And they have surveyed 100 metropolitan areas in the US over 4 years, and found out that with every 10% plus in Airbnb listings, average house renting prices would go up by 0.4%. Now, 0.4% doesn't sound too terrific, but if you think that in many of those cities throughout this 4-year period you had increases of Airbnb listing by 300, 400, 500%, then you can get a feeling of what that does to the housing market. In Vienna, we tend to be not the earliest adopters throughout Europe, so we usually tend to lay back, take a look what is happening, set up an activity, set up a working group, do a study first, and then reach our decisions. In Vienna, we had in October 2014 about 1,000 listings on Airbnb, which is really a low number. Last summer, it have been 8,600, so 6 times as much. So we have also this increase. We can say, and I think this is quite typical for Europe, about 2/3 of those listings are whole flats. So not one single room or 2 rooms of your flat, but whole flats. And out of these numbers, about half of them can be considered as being actually withdrawn from the housing market. So if you rent out a flat, or if the flat is disposable via Airbnb and other platforms for a certain number of days a year, and if it's actually rented out for a certain number of days a year, in our studies we can see these are actually dropping out of the housing markets. And in Vienna, last year, these have been 2,000 to 3,000 flats. Again, that's not too terrific, but the increase is very strong. And what you can see is it's exactly, the flats are exactly located in those districts, in those inner city districts where the pressure on the housing market is already strong. So all those cities in Europe that are facing population growth, and these are most of the big cities, can see that there is pressure on the rents, and Airbnb is increasing this pressure, in particular in those districts where it's strongest. So, who's profiting? I answered this question very quickly. It's only a few, and it's mostly the platforms. So you can see Airbnb here valued with $31 billion last year. More or less the same amount than Marriott Hotel, but without owning one apartment in itself, and with a workforce of 1% compared to Marriott. What to do? And I give a quick question a quick answer on this question. We have taken a look in the different approaches of European cities, and you will see that there are cooperation approaches like Amsterdam did from the very beginning, positioning itself as a sharing city that tried to come to terms with Airbnb and negotiated a memorandum of understanding, and thus to fix certain regulations that should count for everybody, and where Airbnb tries to support the city, at least that's part of the memorandum, to enforce those regulations. The other part of the spectrum is Berlin, as an example, where there's a strict ban of home sharing because it's considered to be a misuse of housing, except you get an exceptional permission. Vienna follows an approach setting a focus on data sharing. So platforms are forced to share their data, the data of the hosts, which they usually tend not to give away easily. And via these data, and here we're again on the digitalization question, via getting the data, you can get a feeling on whether it really increases the pressure on the housing market, and you get a grip on the actual hosts, and you can, what you can see next, then adapt your registration, your permission, your limitation policies in a way that it's suiting the actual situation. Regardless of the approach, and that's my final slide, you will see both Amsterdam and Berlin are achieving strong impacts with their regulations. And I will stop here, and perhaps in the discussion I can explain this more in detail.
How's that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I was just thinking as you were saying there, for those of us who've been involved in the urban agenda for the EU discussions, thanks a lot, Cattis. Thank you. That's been about better regulation, better finance, better sharing of knowledge. So, what comes out of this is several things. The one is, each city is trying to find its own way of tackling this issue. There's lots of potential for cities to learn from one another, and obviously Housing Europe has been convening some of those conversations. But also just thinking about, I think it was last week, there's a report called Unfair B&B, which essentially, and I think it's a direct quote from the report, which said that the Commission seems almost to be hypnotized by the sharing economy. So, cities trying really hard to find creative ways of, and sometimes trying to work with, as in the Amsterdam model, but almost the Commission's kind of almost quasi-neoliberal sort of the market knows best sort of thing, not making it easy for cities to find their way forward. So it's a super interesting topic. I hope we do have a chance to come back and pick up on some of those themes. But let's keep moving on. Let's ask Jüri to come and take the rostrum. I think we're going back to the questions of tech and how we can and e-construction in particular, and just looking at some of the things which the minister talked about. Urvi Palo this morning talked about this goal to double productivity in the construction sector in Estonia and looking at different ways of doing that. And obviously, this whole question of e-construction is firmly in the middle of that. So, Jüri, thanks for joining us. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.
Okay. So, my name is Jüri Rass. I like to sit here as well, but okay, I can sit here. My name is Jüri Rass. I am Deputy Secretary General for Construction in Estonia. Actually, I work in this position only 8 months. I have agreement for five years, and I came with a task and with the idea to help build up e-construction in e-Estonia. E-construction, it means everything, starting from BIM, all cloud systems, and good information what we are going to use. Okay, video as well. There are some things we are proud of. It's not work. Videos anyway, it's very good. There are some things. For example, this X-Road. I think that you heard about this. This is something very good for our e-Estonia. This is a free data, free exchange. And this data all country, public and private sector can use. And this is movement of all information, free information between different registers. Some small timeline. X-Road, digital signature, e-land register, mobile IT, and so on and so on. Only what is missing here yet is e-construction. And this is something what our team is going to work out. If we see on the life cycle of a construction, starting from concept and ending with demolition, and or swimmers for swims in pool, developers, architects, engineers, and so on. Then this upper part is something what work in private sector. All information flow between different projects and different stakeholders. And the lower part is administrative part worked by government. This our X-Road where all information is flowing smoothly. And just in the middle is building register. And we are going to use this register, what is not good enough today, what have even bad information inside. We are going to use this like a tool for all this system. So we can improve, we can give best knowledge, and all good information. How it is work today? This is building register in the middle of the process, and all process is moving through this register. This is of course connected with X-Road and other our information. But the state operate with this register, and information is not owned by state. This is owned by private persons, private companies, and local authorities. But this is for us is a tool. So architects, engineers, developers put their information to register, and local municipalities control it, and of course other inspectorates and boards, and issuing building permits and all other certificates. But as this is in the central, we can use this like a tool for improve all this process, and this is our plan to do. This shells, starting with the lower part, here this is building register, and ending with e-construction, what is our dream. And all others important things, like user interface, help desk, official procedures, and final e-construction. And starting from the upper part, we like to simplify all things, standardize them, learn and use the best practice to do everything transparency. Everything must be shown in all citizens. And the final one is a legal framework. All others must work very well. Then we go to regulations and new rules. And of course, daily operation all the time. And there are list some projects we are already started or going to start soon to work out all this information system. Singapore. Our delegation was last year visited Singapore. We got lot of new knowledge, new information, everything interesting. But the most important was the team. There was 25, 30 people from our main, let's say that, BIM team. And we was together there, and we thought about our country, how to improve this, how to make everything better. And we went back with this information, yes. And finally, smart cities. You know that our country celebrated this year 100th anniversary. We are very proud, and we think about if we are 200 years old. And here is some figures. Singapore, 700 square meters. All our big cities, 700 square meters as well. So if we can make them smarter, and government like to help us, then we are happy. And our land will stay the same, fresh, poor nation. And this is our dream. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Jüri. And back up again. Are you going to do it? Shall I do it? DIY. BIM. Here we are. BIM, DIY. So, and interestingly, this morning we mentioned this kind of Nordic Baltic notion of the balance between nature and the city. You know, you showed that great photo of the birch forest at the end, but you've contrasted it nice with density, super dense Singapore, and you've also got the conversation started, which I think Evgeny will now pick up on, telling us a bit more about e-construction and specifically about BIM, and I love the way you said in your profile that you're a dog person. So you're clearly someone who likes being outside in nature as well. So Evgeny, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you.
All right. This working? Great. All right. So thank you for all my colleagues, Johannes, Cattis, Jüri. As it was already said, I represent the Tallinn City Construction and Maintenance Division of the Tallinn City Property Department. And I will have a little smaller presentation because Jüri basically covered everything that we are dealing with at the moment, at what our plans are. I will have a little more practical approach because this is what I'm doing basically every day. By the way, on this slide you can see our mayor in the VR glasses trying to teach all kinds of persons. Yes. I can do that. Thanks. Yay. All right. No, that basically filled up the lacking time that I had in the presentation. Perfect. All right. And completely got off my track. So the things that we're dealing with is basically implementing and developing BIM platforms in the city. Tallinn is the biggest municipality in Estonia, and it's basically the best sandbox we can get to play with all the new technologies, and we have the capability to actually implement them, and we have the people that are eager to use them and make profits out of them. Most probably everybody here knows what is BIM or BIM, just a slide that basically indicates what it is about. And what it gives to us is basically saving in time, human hours, and basically one of the latest information I got just yesterday is that just by using the X-road system and the digital signing procedures that we have here in Estonia, we basically saved up to 2% of GDP last year. Quite impressive. And this is something that basically is closely related to this. Digitalization of the design, build, and all kind of a procurement process. Most probably, this number is not precise in all countries, but for Estonia, the logical border between using 2D text, so the traditional design, and the BIM technology is about 7,000 euros. So if you have a design project that is under this mark, it's most probably more useful to still do it in 2D, but over that, it's only BIM. And what have done so far? Together with the State Real Estate Ltd, or the RKS, we have developed the new BIM standard or manual of basically designing and building houses using BIM. We also have a lot of cooperation with local universities, including TTU and TKTK. And another very important thing that we're trying to work on is moving the building registry onto a BIM platform. Now, this is something that we have just had a trip to Finland, to Helsinki, for the 2 days. Got a lot of experience and knowledge. Got real tired, but we have to work on it now. And basically, what they have had created is basically a Google Earth view of their biggest cities, as you can see here on the left. We want to do this, but we do want to augment it and to make it better. Basically, what this picture indicates is not an IFC indication on the Earth platform, but the, let's say, spatial and the volume of the houses. It doesn't have all the information that I feel we need. And the vision that we have is that we can basically import direct IFC files into this platform and make a giant IFC city, basically. Quite ambitious, but we'll start with the Kaya Cultural Center that is currently being built in Mustamäe. It's the first fully procured, designed, and basically built project in BIM here in Tallinn. I'm also part of this team and being on the construction site basically every week. Once this building is done and it's opened in April next year, we will see what the statistics gives us, because at the moment the slide I showed was taken from the British statistics, and we don't have that. Yes, basically this was taken from the 2015 UK comparison project, which basically saved up to 54% of the human hours on design and different other profits. We don't have that statistics, and we just need to gather it. And it's like it's a closed loop. We need the statistics to show the public that it actually works. And basically to show the public that it actually works, we need to make it work. So basically we're just trying to start this train, but when we get it going, there is we're not stopping that. So basically other projects that we also have done in BIM but didn't have time to basically implement as the Lasnamäe Health Center. All those buildings are either newly built or being built at the moment, so you can see their like schematics, designs, and BIM in our construction registry. But of course, once we get the system going, there won't be any like separate 2D drawings. There will be only models. The other very ambitious project is the Tallinn Central Hospital, which is only being designed. The concept is being worked out at the moment. And the recently opened teacher's house in Lasnamäe, which is also a zero energy usage house. I guess this is all I wanted to talk about, but I will definitely keep up with the conversation later.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Evgeny. And in fact, interesting, you began with an image of the mayor. You began with an image of the mayor, and actually the mayor also talked about the teacher's house in his presentation this morning. So thanks again for making that real, giving us some tangible examples. And you know, those of us who are in Estonia for a few days, and maybe some of you who were on in the study visit yesterday, I know that you went to see the teacher's house. So there's a chance to see some of these projects, which I think also always makes a big difference. So on to our final speaker. You've been sitting there patiently waiting. So Bernd Rießland from Sozialbau AG in Austria. Thanks for joining us. And again, we're still looking at this question of pros and cons, the benefits, the opportunities, and technology and the
as technology is going up and down sometimes. Thank you for the possibility saying a few words to you here, coming from Austria. And there was a quite technical focus just now. I will start regarding affordable housing, that there are some other questions, social questions, other than technical questions open for social housing. Coming from the background from a 65,000 unit corporation, so we have, it's a small city, we manage mostly inside of Vienna, so we have on one side a stock of 65,000, on the other hand new construction of between 1,000 and 2,000, varying with different situations, and this is the experience and what the presentation is based, that it's coming from the Austrian market. In Austria we have around 1 million flats in the cooperative sector, in administration and in ownership around 650 to 700,000 in ownership in these corporations. Well, first a few slides to price differences and price increases in the last time. The price increases in land, you see here between 2000 2015, 90%. I can say to this is a relatively positive picture. Looking at the last 5 years, we had a tripling of land prices in Vienna in real contracts that we saw. Some we didn't sign because it was too high in our experience. But this is, apart from all the digital questions, a very important impact, and how we can overcome those problems if the land prices go up about the same range like the building prices are in total. This just happened the last 3 to 5 years in Vienna. Construction costs going up on the other side by more or less 50% in this period. This is the construction part, and on the other hand, the service part as well is going up in prices. So affordable housing in all aspects is a task which is very important. Here another look at the price situation in relation to the volume which is produced. The dotted line you see is the indicator of the volume, and you see in the middle period you see a very strong upgoing of the production, and some one period later, 2 periods later, you see an upgoing of the building prices. Whatever we do with BIM and other things, there is a market argumenting against us. And in the last years, again, a very strong uprising of the building volume, and following just now a strong building upgoing in the range of 20 to 30%, and all this following a population situation that since the last 15 years, Vienna was a stagnant city over up to 2000, and afterwards there was a growing up of the population between 1 and 2% per year, which is quite a lot as a task for investment. Well, here another documentation of the upgrowing of the different sorts of prices, from construction to technical heating and so on. You can see later, I'm not going to go into detail. I think it's speaking for itself what is shown here. What is there a bit of market situation from Vienna in regards to affordable housing? Vienna as a market with more than 50% housing either in the hand of the municipality or in cooperatives, had a production up to the year 2000, a production share of about 80 to 90% from the cooperative side, and only 20%, not even 20% from a private sector, home ownership, and hardly any rental housing from the market sector. This changed quite a lot to the side that in the last, since 2008, quite a lot of the of investment, of private investment, changed from the banking side to the side to invest in housing, and this is one of the bases as well for AirBnB. Quite a lot of people think that the money is better invested, and on the other hand, Vienna became attractive as for institutional investors. It was a sleeping city a bit before on the housing side, because housing was so good under control in Vienna that the prices didn't really go up, and now we are in the focus of international investment. The answer is upgoing land prices exponential, and building prices going up. Well, so far to the market side from the affordable housing. Apart from this slide, some basic informations, because it was in the last section it was shown that in in Sweden as well, IT and digital investment is a basis for administration. Just to mention the basic functions: accounting, communication with our tenants. All these things are completely managed by IT already. Up to contracts, we do the everyday management. On the contract side, if there are some, the whole maintenance field with this housing stock, it's about 80,000 activities per year to manage. All this is done without paper, in a direct communication with the contractors. Up to the, there is no bill produced and sent by post. All this is automatically involved in the normal, in our normal business. And we are not so far than you are here, but as well as I understood, just as well at the beginning, since 2 or 3 years with the BIM method, we just start to bring up as well our the construction side, the new building side, with more and more technology. All the plans and all things are standard since several years in IT communication. But to deepen this in the BIM logic is a task ahead of us. Well, here's some this was for our administration as a business. Important as well as a service to our clients as one part. And well, here's listed up the different functions which our clients are using, and what is since 3 years standard in every new construction. We are working with fiberglass, so that every household has best connections, and in every room the possibility by fiberglass to come to the network outside the house. And this is as well a basis in the communication inside the house. The organization, we have different communication functions and functions which are used by the tenants, from washing to swimming. We have different social functions in the houses, and there is quite a lot of booking and organization. All this is communicated by these, by the help of these fiberglass systems and programs which are working in this field. Well, an idea coming out of literature, and sometimes in a certain perspective coming out of developments, especially in the Japanese market, is where are we going in reducing building costs? Where are we, I ask? You're standing up.
Time-wise, we're...
Time-wise, we're at the end.
So you asked me where we're going with Japanese building costs. I thought you're asking the wrong person, you know.
It was, again, a quick change. A development in changing the configuration of our houses and having less individual parts and more parts for public use, or use if you need it, workspace, or to make a family feast not in your special room. That is reducing the individual part and widening a public part in houses. This is in discussion, and the free market does it without the public part, by reducing the average of the apartments. The average in the cooperative sector, average square meter is around 70 square meter. The average in the private sector just now is around 50 square meter, and the same amount of persons living in this apartments. So there is an interesting development, degrading housing in our perspective, coming to housing for lower income groups in smaller smaller units, and in bigger units you have the better social situation in the bigger units. And so I think it's a very problematic development with the market coming in This is coming from changing the situation. I said that before 2000 there were 80% in 80% of the production in a market from the cooperative sector, and 20% from the private sector. That changed now. Now we have 60% in the private sector and 40% in the cooperative sector. There are very important tasks coming out for future discussions in a situation where competition and market orientation for housing is more and more introduced in the debate in the EU, and we are searching for partners discussing these questions in Brussels and in other regions to keep the knowledge of a cooperative housing, not a social housing for the poor, but a housing for the middle class, including the lower income groups. We are searching for partners in this discussion, upside all the digital questions, because I think this is a very important task for the next years. Thank you.
Bernd, thank you very much. Thank you. And thanks for that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Thanks for that call to arms. So if you're interested in carrying on that conversation, if you're interested in being part of that collaborative venture, please find Bernd during the coffee break, have a chat with them. Thanks to all of our speakers. I would like to have dived into some of those things in a bit more detail, so we'll just have to do that over a drink outside. We're going to take a break now. Remember, during these breaks is a chance for you to sample a bit more of what's going on. So we've got two short these innovation shots. One where Sebastian's going to be talking about a thing called AAA Reno, which is a game around gamification. And the other example, which is from Torino in Italy, is looking at how we are developing apps to put tenants more in control of what's going on with their homes. So dive into those, enjoy the break. We are back at 3:30, and join me together again to say thanks again to our speakers. Thanks very much, guys.